Well, good evening and welcome to a special edition of Behind the Bombers. This is grand final week for the AFL South Coast. I'm joined by President of the Basin Football Club, Michael Burke, and head coach of the men's senior team, Chris Stubbs. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us, mate.
Yeah, awesome to be here.
History is being written this week for the Basin Bombers. In just their short time since joining the AFL South Coast Seniors competition, they've stormed their way into their very first grand final, a monumental achievement not only for the club but the Shoalhaven region as a whole. In a league dominated by Illawarra-based teams, the Bombers stand tall as one of just two Shoalhaven clubs to reach this stage in 2025. It's a moment built on resilience, community spirit, and the tireless efforts of the players, coaches, volunteers, and supporters alike. Today, we sit down with the Basin AFL Club President and Senior Men's Head Coach to reflect on the journey that brought us here and the season that's been, and the pride of representing our region on the biggest stage of the year. So I want to start with you, Michael. Looking back at the start of this season, did you ever imagine that we'd be sitting here talking about the Basin Bombers making their first senior grand final?
Yeah, good question and good intro too. Look, I I probably did to a degree, and it's not because I felt anything was different at the start of this year. I probably felt that this was the third year of something building from 23 onwards. So I sort of personally felt that we probably achieved as close to as good as we could have done over the last couple of years, and definitely felt that with the culture that we had, the people that were coming into the club, and the group that we had leading the club through that, yeah, look, it definitely was a possibility. Did I expect it? No, absolutely not. Never expect anything like that. But super grateful.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that you could clearly see things were building over a number of years, but as you know from playing yourself and being involved in AFL, only two teams can get to the pointy end of the season in the grand final, and you always hope that it's going to be your team. It just happens to be us this year, and that's really exciting for the club.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, look, it's a great step for the club, for everybody involved, and you touched on it as well, the community. So really exciting week.
Awesome, thank you. Chris, I'll just go over to you now. So I know you've been in this role for a number of years, developing this team and the players and the culture that's had come with that. Um, when you first took on the role, what vision did you have for this team? And how close is that vision to what you see today?
The vision that I had, and it's slightly cliched, and Michael and I talk about it a lot, but it's genuine, is that we wanted to create an environment that people wanted to be a part of. And so from that vision, I think it's gone as well, if not better, than what I could have imagined. The blend that we have of younger players, older players, Bombers, young guys that played Bombers juniors and have come back, and just guys that have been generally interested in coming along. And we've just got such a wonderful group of people. What I probably hadn't envisaged is that wonderful group of people are also pretty damn good footballers. And I say that deliberately, in that I think the first flows to the second. We ended up having a really good group of guys and women. We're developing a really great group of people, and as I said, we just fortuitously they happen to be pretty good at football, and so the combination of the two of those together is actually, yeah, probably. I didn't think we would be as successful on the field as quickly as we've been. But listen, loving the ride at this point in time. So, yeah, just keep going along. And we haven't sacrificed that value, the first value, for the second. I think one of the things is too many people get too caught up in being successful on the field. And don't get me wrong, I'm 100% committed for the best result we can be on Saturday. But being a part of this group and being part of the club is actually, I get more value and joy out of that than I do well, I say that before we've played. I can revisit it afterwards, but yeah, that's generally where I feel. I'm just super excited to be a part of this group.
So if I'm summing up, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was always culture and community first, and if that turned into success along the way, then that's a byproduct of what you were trying to achieve.
Mm. Yes.
Fantastic. And yeah, you're right. Without singling any one or two people out in the club, there's certainly been some great talent come on the scene this year in particular. And I'm talking about some of those younger players that, you've heard stories about. They've got a rugby background or haven't played a lot of AFL and then come out and dominate with 20 possessions, scooping the ball off the deck at pace. You just can't you wouldn't read about that generally, but we've just been lucky enough to have them in our community.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Michael, back to you. It's a bit like tennis. It'll be one question each, so neither of you get too tired too quickly. Look, reflecting on community, which has been a bit of a buzzword throughout the season, I'm sure before I got here, it was also heavily discussed as well. But what does this achievement of making a senior grand final, we're a relatively small club in a small community regional area. What does it mean for the Bay and Basin community, especially being one of only two Shoalhaven teams currently in the competition?
Yeah, look, I think generally when any community organization makes an impactful game like a grand final or a regional final or the like in other sports, it echoes. And it's interesting with AFL, we're a secondary sport in the Bay and Basin area, and we always acknowledge that and we accept that. But we don't ever try to compete against other sports either. What we just try to do is to celebrate our sport and celebrate the people that are in it. And so when you get the opportunity to play in a grand final and to have weeks like we've got planned at the club, where we're involving the juniors and the families and the sponsors. It's just really nice. It's really wholesome. There's a lot that goes on in the community that gets reflected poorly. And the Bay and Basin's no exception for that. But, you touched briefly on some of these young kids that are coming through. We're very, very lucky they're all good kids. But by having football, by having sport, by having a community organisation, they've got something to belong to as well. And so when we're talking about community, it's not just a word that we use for the sake of it. It's something that we genuinely mean. And so having the opportunity to celebrate this week is great, and it echoes. It goes further than what we think. I genuinely get people in the shops wishing us well. People I genuinely have never met before, which is great. And that's what it's all about. If we're making positive impacts in our community, then we're doing something right.
Absolutely. And while I'm on community, we haven't got a lot of other questions around the community, but I just want to touch on what's behind you at the moment, and that's no club can really survive or be as professional as they'd like to be without having sponsors on board. Just we have touched on this in the past in interviews, but just this is probably our final opportunity to really acknowledge the major sponsors that contribute. I know that you guys as a club have specifically decided on certain types of sponsors you want to be involved in the club. So just briefly touch on how important your major sponsors have been for the club this year, and why it's been important for you to keep it local to the Bay and Basin region.
Yeah, well, look, it all goes towards that culture piece, right? And we like to say that we can back up our words and our ideas and how we portray ourselves with actual substance. So you're right, with the sponsors on my background here, super, super important because they're not just providing funds, which we obviously need as we continue that professionalism and that growth journey in the community, but they're actually providing resources too. So we've got some new businesses on, we've got some long-standing businesses that all just play this really nice piece, each and every one of them into that overall puzzle, right? So, yeah, eternally grateful to all of our sponsors. You know, we're very, very fortunate that, we can partner with such good organizations, and people that actually do provide, substantial difference in the community. So yeah, again, we wouldn't be sitting here in, nice polo shirts and, all the rest of the things that we're starting to build in the background, all those foundations that we've been laying over the last, particularly around the sponsor piece, the last 12, 18 months in the senior space. We wouldn't be able to be doing what we're doing without them. So, yeah, thank you, for every one of our sponsors who does watch this. Yeah, thank you. It's been incredible. It's a start of, long relationships with all of them, and continued relationships with all of them. And yeah, can't wait to see where not only this year takes us, over the next week, but also, the coming years. But yeah, in short, really, really grateful that they've bought into what we've seen, and, and what we've built, and, and they're helping with us to build that.
Awesome. Thank you. Rightio, Chris, I'm going to move on to some playing group questions. So the playing group this year is, I saw a bit of it while I was umpiring in the previous years, and you can clearly see development has grown over the last few years in the players that have been playing for 3 years, but also some of the newer players as the years gone on have only progressed. So for you, what's impressed you most about the playing group's resilience and development throughout 2025 season?
Um, I guess, I mean, we had obviously a number of new players come in this year. I mean, I think the first game we played up at Kiama there, we had 12 first gamers, like first gamers for the club. So over half the team, and obviously with Ulladulla, sadly for them, having to pull out late. Obviously, a number of their guys came to us, and listen, they've fitted exactly what I said before, that they're just good guys. They just happen to be very good footballers, so we've sort of been pretty happy with that. So they've certainly added all of the Ulladulla guys have added a really great mix. Probably our younger guys that hadn't played a whole lot, so your Dans and your Curleys and those sort of things have been. I mean, Curley had never played before. He's one of the more remarkable athletes that I've seen with his athleticism, and Dan has really just gone from strength to strength. Jack, Maxi Sims, a lot of our young guys have just continued. They're not on the fringe players anymore. They're pretty established guys that are playing big roles for us throughout the whole wherever they are on the field. So, and I think, listen, I'm going to make sure this doesn't sound condescending or anything, but obviously we won a lot of games, and we won a lot of games fairly comfortably. Sometimes that can be a challenge because you can lose some of the momentum, or people just sort of roll up and don't get as invested. So I think we managed to go through that really, really well, and keep the momentum, keep the fun element, and keep everyone engaged. And right now, as I said, I think we have every single player on our list is put their hand up for available for selection this Saturday, which that's the first for me for the year. That's a challenge, but it's an excellent challenge to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And just sort of backing on to what you were saying, I think you're right. There's that, winning comfortably throughout the season has its challenges when it comes to the big games. And I think, without singling out a certain game, definitely the Fig Tree game at Fig Tree right in the middle of the season was a bit of I won't say it was a bad loss or anything. It was more like a bit of a wake-up call that you can go a number of games winning quite comfortably, but you also need to be switched on and ready to go when you play those teams that are at the same level as you. So I think it kind of was a tough day in the office, but at the same time, I do think we did learn a lot from that game moving forward, and that showed in the qualifying final when we got down to business. We knew what we were up against, and we really had to knuckle down. It wasn't just your Wollongong Bulldogs or one of those other lower sides in our comp. So yeah, I think that's where I see the resilience was really formed around that middle of the season, and add in all those wet weather games that we missed, and that stuns your momentum at times as well.
Yeah, I mean, in many regards, we got to thank Victory because they're the ones, they were the benchmark last year, and they've been up there again, and they're the ones that have kept us honest, and it's good. We know that each time we've played them, we've had to be at our best, and obviously we're playing again this Saturday, so we've got to be at our best again. So yeah, there's certainly nobody's thinking we've got to get carried away. If we play to our best, I'm confident, obviously, that we can be successful, but we know we've got to do that. We're not going to get by just rolling along. So no, it's and I like that. I think it should be a challenge. I think we should all be challenged in life. That's one of my mottos in life, as you probably know. So put yourself outside your comfort zone.
Well, I'm definitely hoping that we don't have to win the game after the siren like I did in my last grand final in Cairns. So I'm hoping that we play to the best of our ability and get over the line relatively comfortable. But we'll see what Saturday brings. Michael, moving on, we have lots and lots of volunteers behind the scenes. Not just the people in this room, but there are many people, and that stems across both juniors and seniors. To the point where I see all the time the support of the junior volunteers turning up to senior games and helping or supporting or whatever it may be. It's kind of like a very all inclusive club where everyone just puts their hand up and gets involved. So for me, my question is, how important have they been in getting the Bombers to this point now, the volunteers?
Oh yeah, without them, clubs don't run. It's as simple as that. But I guess probably to take that to the next part of, I guess enhancing that, our volunteer base is incredible, and they're just prepared to help whenever, wherever, with whatever. Seeing, such large numbers of juniors, not just the kids, but the parents of the kids, and sometimes the parents even went out without the kids there, at our games in the senior space is great. And we've done a lot of work with that. That whole one team, one dream, the one club piece. It isn't by accident that we've sort of boxed it that way. But they've bought in, like with everybody in the club, they've bought into, to our bigger sort of picture, and and they're on this bus with us, right, through everything that happens. At the start of the seasons with the juniors, when you're unsure if you're going to get teams together or what the teams are going to look like, where they're going to play, how they're going to, make up for wet weather. But yeah, they're just always putting their hands up. So yeah, it gives me a lot of confidence in my role, because I know that while there's a lot of moving parts, the people are there waiting to, find something that, to put their hand up for, and that's a committee, so it obviously starts with the committee. One person that probably doesn't get enough of a shout out from my perspective is Lisa, our vice president. She just bangs along in the background, just, getting stuff whenever we need, organizing trophies, all the little bits and pieces that just, effectively sort of do themselves in the, unless you know who's actually doing them. And the rest of the committee too are fantastic. And then outside of the committee too, we've got an unofficial committee about three times the size of the official committee, which is, again, how all good organisations run is, many hands make light work. And yeah, it's just phenomenal. It's such a blessing, and it's such a pleasure for me to just, know that when we need hands, need people, need help, there's never a shortage of it. So it's been really, really good, really encouraging.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and you're right. No club can survive without volunteers unless you're a mega fortune club that has plenty of money and stuff. But yeah, no, it's been really encouraging, even for me as a player, seeing how many people are there on game day, just trying to make it easy for the players to go out and just do their job and get on the field. It's been really. I know I just summed that up and made it sound a lot low key than it really is, because I know there's a lot of people behind the scenes doing stuff. But yeah, it's been incredible to see. Chris, footy finals brings significant pressure, nerves, butterflies in the guts. Trust me, I felt every emotion over 36 years in football. How have you kept the playing group grounded and focused for what's to come this week? And if you haven't really had a lot of chance to do that, what are you going to be doing to keep the team focused and grounded going into the grand final?
Yeah, well, it was an interesting situation having the week off because it's all pretty new for me and for us. But we obviously had last week. So we just had a fun. Actually, I implemented a whole lot of Auskick games that for all the seniors, and not surprisingly, they went just as well with them, if not better. Simple things that did something different, and then we trained obviously at Bomaderry last Thursday night, which was something different, but that was great. To be able to have a run around that field, to not have to fish balls out of the bushes once you kicked a goal was sort of nice, and lights were cool. Yeah, that was really cool. And then this week, so we've just sort of focusing on what we need to do. It's that fine balance between. We all know it's a big game on Saturday, but the most important thing is to just try and stick to the routine. It's why we had potentially the option to look at training in Bobo this week, and we chose not to. We thought, no, we're just going to stay at home, do what we do, and keep working on that. Got the umpires coming on Tuesday, an umpire, just thought it'd be a good opportunity for us to just do some game simulation stuff with an umpire, because we all know that one of the problems in finals is people's pressure. They forget, make silly mistakes. It's just a reminder for that. So, try and keep us as grounded as we can. And, and then Thursday's going to be a bit of obviously a last training session, but Michael's invited all the juniors and family and friends along, and we'll announce the side. So that's something new, but it's made a bit of a celebration of it and embracing everyone. And said that theme that he talked about bringing the community on board. So I think everyone's pretty super excited and looking forward to that. And then. Yeah, how individual. I'll probably have some conversations. I will have conversations at training about how people manage that, but and reach out to people who might need some, different support or assistance, because everyone's going to manage that in a different way. And then I got a bit of a thought, or I got a plan for the pre-match, which is designed to motivate but to relax and calm. So we'll see how that all goes.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how many printouts are blue tack to the wall, and what your story is. Last week's Stonehenge, is that how you say it? Stonehenge?
It was Stonehenge, yes. It was Bomberhenge, but it was the same concept, yes.
Yeah, I actually don't know how you come up with so many different scenarios each week, but luckily it's the last one you need to think of till 2026, so it'll be good to hear for sure.
I've had this one up my sleeve most of the year, so I'm saving it.
Perfect. Sounds good to me. Just on the back end of what you were saying just then, Chris, what does it personally mean to you to coach the Basin Bombers to their first grand final appearance as a senior club?
I hadn't really thought about it too much until you put it that way. And I know it's cliche. Obviously I'd love us to be successful, but I'm just so excited for what it can be for everyone else. Not just the players, the people around them, and as Michael said, the community itself. Obviously we're newish to the organisation, not just the competition, but we compete for sort of space in the community with soccer and rugby league and union and that sort of stuff. So to have a team that's successful in Basin just builds its own excitement. The amount of people who've spoken to me and just asked how I'm going, and they don't really follow that much, but it's just building that excitement. So I'm generally excited at what it can bring to that element. Obviously, personally, it's no one's going to lie and say that they're not super excited at being in a position to be able to achieve something, because you don't get that opportunity very often. So I got into the Bombers when Sam was playing under 11s, and we made the grand final in that first year. We lost, but we haven't made a grand final since, and he's 27 this year. So, it's not like we haven't, everyone knows that they don't come around very often. So you got to, seize the opportunity when they do.
Yeah, and I know you're not a big fan of talking yourself up, but just since we're recording and other people will be watching this, I'm sure that the rest of the playing group would agree with what I'm about to say. Like, it takes a lot of, and I've been a senior coach myself, and it takes a lot of commitment, even just for the small amount of rounds during a year, to commit to being at training, to coming up with drills every single time we train, to coming up with your pre-game speech, and just to remain positive even in the high and the low moments is something that I've seen that's given great strength to the playing group. So look, I want to say thank you for everything you've done in the years leading up to now, that I haven't been a part of, but I've seen what you've been doing just in this year alone. And you need to take a significant amount of credit for where this club's come from to where it is now. So, when I go out, I'm playing for a number of reasons, but one of it is for you as well, for all the hard work you've put in. And I hope we can get away with the win on the weekend for your sake, for what you've done for the club. So thanks.
Oh, thank you, Nathan. Greatly appreciated.
No worries. All right. Don't know how we moved down from that really high moment then, so I'll just pass it over to Michael.
Yeah,
Hopefully you've
straight
got
back to
some good
me.
words. Look, how do you see this season's success impacting our junior pathways and our junior teams?
Yeah, look, I think there's two elements to it, right? There's the off-field success and the on-field success, and I think having the off-field success is breeding that culture of on-field success, and it's bringing good people to the club and good families to the club. Which, so if we're looking at from a senior space, we've got a number of players that have got young kids or are having kids. We've got the best part of 4 or 5 new Bombers in the last 12 to 18 months born into the club effectively. So naturally, as people have kids, that, starts to bring through that new generation and that next generation of kids. But where I think it's been really successful over the last 3 years, and not just this year with the on-field success we've had, but the last 3 years, particularly with the men's and the women's sort of complementing each other, it's actually allowed the kids to see what senior football looks like, and they see it on a Thursday night. As they're finishing training, the seniors are starting, and they see it when they go to the games, and they're part of it, and we bring the kids in to the huddles so they can hear what Stubber's saying, and they can hear those stories that we tell them about. And so that off-field success is just, really moving along really nicely, and I'm really comfortable with where that's at and how that looks. And then obviously the on-field success, it doesn't hurt. It certainly doesn't hurt, right? So if the kids are coming to watch the seniors, and the guys are going well, and I know even just from a couple of weeks ago, the kids were standing behind Scotty counting how many goals he was kicking when we were at home, and that was their absolute pleasure going into the bush to get the ball, because they wanted to get the ball that Scotty kicked into the goals, which is it's incredible. And I remember being that kid as well. So for us, it's just emulating what we had as kids, and to probably to back that up, a point that Stubber made earlier in the week off, he reverted back to Auskick drills, and you go, oh, well, it's a bit of fun, it's a little bit cheesy, but it's going back to those fundamentals of why we fell in love with the game in the first place, and that's because it gave us an outlet, but it gives us something to look up to, and something to be a part of. And the pathways piece is super important. We've put some really good mechanisms in place to support that growth, and with the Bombers Junior Development Program that we're looking at re-implementing in the next off season. So everything's in place. Having that pathway is allowing us to really build on those, on the foundations of that pathway. And yeah, it's a really good space to be a part of. I think it's they complement each other, the on-field and off-field success. And we're starting to see, a lot of the results of that.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't hurt the fact that this club has women's, men's, and juniors. What I have seen of recent times with, and I'm not here to single out any other clubs, but the clubs that don't have a senior team but are heavily invested in juniors, the juniors don't have a pathway up, so therefore they're forced out of location to play for other teams, and then it's harder for them to come back a lot of times. So I think this club's in a great position because you have all those available competitions going on in the one club. There is a clear pathway to come up, and you've already built those pathways ready to go for when they get to the age where they can move up to seniors. And we've seen obviously the step up with people like Jack and Max and stuff as well. So I see that being a
Yeah.
positive going forward.
It's interesting you say that because we were that junior club only, a few years ago. We've been
Yeah.
around for a long time, since '99, and we had the senior space in the early days, but we went for the best part of about 16, 17 years being just a junior only club. And that was one of the reasons why, we put so much effort and, an investment into the women's space, which, is always a challenge. AFL, as I said already, is a bit of a challenge in the area. And adding the capacity in the women's space when you're competing with a sport like netball or soccer. And then, you're also got mums who will never ever put their own sporting, aspirations first. They'll always put their kids and rightfully so. And it has been a challenge, but that was one of the big drivers for doing what we did in the women's space. And then obviously complementing that with the men as well it was bringing in all different types of people, singles, families, mums, dads, and kids, and now having a bit more of that full package. And then, not here to talk about it, but, touching on looking at adding the masters piece into next year. And then there's that little gap we've still got around that sort of 15 space that we're looking at building out over the next 2 years. Yeah, it's a lot of hard work. But I think particularly in my role, I look at what other clubs are doing and where I think they're going really well. And I think you can learn a lot off other clubs in the area. And if you're prepared to ask and prepared to invest your time and effort, and also trust the process. There's been a number of stories which Stubber and I have shared with a million different people around. There was a lot of times there where we thought this wasn't going to work. We were convinced that we'd made a mistake, but this is just one of those ticks. This week's one of those ticks as to it does work if you trust the process. So yeah, look, yeah, really exciting.
Awesome. Thank you. Um, Chris, I don't know how many exactly players we had on the books registered this year. I don't really need to know. There's been quite a few, but and I know you're not going to single out every individual player when I ask this question, but I want you just to have a think about a individual player or a couple of individual players that have been, I guess, sort of success stories this year in the Bain Basin team, and particularly those who have sort of captured the spirit and the culture of this team very quickly and fit in seamlessly.
Um, yeah, I mean, listen, it's hard not to start without Dane and Scotty as our co-captains. That they perfectly fit what I said at the start, that they sort of arrived at the club, or they were hanging around, and just the right time. Really good guys, families and that sort of stuff, and they just ended up having to be, really very good footballers. But they do a lot off the field, and just building an environment where a lot of those young guys want to be a part of. So I think that's, and I think in every, even the elite football clubs talk about making sure that the board and the football management and the football and the team are in alignment. And I guess Michael, myself, and Dane and Scotty have always been very aligned around what we're trying to do with that messaging, and so that's sort of worked pretty seamlessly. I mean, it has been, and we said it right from the start, though, that there's been a jumble of, not a jumble, that I don't mean that might sound disrespectfully, but a range of different guys that have come involved. I mean, yourself, you've obviously got a whole range of experience that you bring, and the enthusiasm you bring in, and what you've done for the club, sponsorship and these sort of things has been amazing. And that's been really, really important for us. Blokes like Harry Block, you've got a guy who's he's played a bit of footy, but he's again just a good guy, but he loves chatting, and he's a good leader and talking and engagement. And you've got your Timmy B down at centre half back, and so they also, not only have we've got these good people that are good footballers, but they're also got those leadership qualities, and they happen to have been neatly spread around the ground so that we've actually got people in the forward line, people in the midfield, people in the back line that are sort of managing and talking and encouraging. And listen, I don't not that having crosswords or arguments is a bad thing, because it's okay to have some tension at times, but I don't think we have a lot, because we're able to people are able to encourage and support and get the message along without having it to be a difficult conversation, and I think that's put us in really good stead. We generally enjoy spending time with each other, and I know most footy clubs do, so that's but I really enjoy hanging out with every single guy that's there, and I can honestly say that from the bottom of my heart. So I don't know if I answered the question exactly how you were.
You did pretty good.
Told.
You did pretty good. You nearly went around the whole ground and named everyone, but you got to the point. I mean, I must admit, you're right that I've been involved in lots of different footy clubs, and not everyone buys into everything that's going on in the club, and there are tensions, and they do simmer and then flare up as the season goes on and can derail the season. But I haven't seen any of that this year, and everyone seems to be on the same page. I must admit, I'll probably have to have an argument with you this week, because I probably played one of my best games of the year after having a little chat with you on the phone. So, yeah, let's do that again this week, Stubber.
Yeah, why not?
But I think you sort of answered that question a couple of times throughout this interview, and that's that there's a great mix of experience which you need in a club in that leadership space, as well as the leaders have been there and done that and can calm the younger guys, but then the younger guys coming through have just been a breath of fresh air with their skills, the way they go about their business. They do talk a lot of immature crap at training, which I can't sort of connect with at my age, but but they're great blokes, great players, and yeah, the combination of the leadership as well as the young players, I feel like that's been great this year. Right, Michael, if you had to describe this playing group in 3 words, can you pick 3 words? That's the question.
Yeah, real good guys.
Fantastic. That was easier than I thought.
It's simple, and I know we've said it multiple times through this, but we've got really, really good people who just happen to be really good footballers, and that's all the way across the board. And, even those ones that are just starting out, they're becoming good footballers because of those around them, but they're already good guys. So, yeah, real good guys.
Awesome. Chris, on a lighter note, there's some pretty strong characters in this football club in the playing group. If you could narrow down to one of the funnier people in the playing group, who would it be, and what makes them stand out?
I mean, Hughesy's added a great element. We've talked a little bit about him at different times. He's a strong character, and how he came wasn't exactly the journey that he wanted, and I won't go into that in too much detail. Most people know what I'm talking about. But he's I've really enjoyed. He's a bit quirky at times, and he's got a strong voice. But I think again. That's for us at the end of the day. He's a good guy, and it's been an adjustment for him, but he's made that adjustment and fitted in really, really well with the group, and he's become an integral. I mean, it doesn't hurt if you're 6'5". I'm not being silly, but at the end of the day, he's fitted into the group really well and created some really nice connections, and I think that's been awesome to watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got an answer for that too.
Yeah,
Jake
go.
Harvey. Jake
Oh,
Harvey.
he was
Jake,
going to
he's a
be mine.
cracker.
He
So
was going to be
yeah,
mine too.
and the beauty of guys like Jake is they don't change. They've just got this same witty humor, no matter how serious the conversation is, no matter how, serious the talk is in the chat. Even he had some funny little comments and smiles as we were running around last Saturday out on Artie Smith, and every club needs a Jake Harvey. We're
Yeah,
fortunate that we've got some of those guys. We've got a few of those guys who have got that humor and have got really good delivery. But yeah, just having somebody that can keep things level is really important in a footy club. So yeah, I think in that he deserves a mention as well.
absolutely.
No,
Yeah,
wouldn't disagree with that. Yep.
they're both great people along with everyone. So yeah, it's great to have those people as part of the club. Um, right. Michael, what message would you like to share with those watching here, supporters, players, families, sponsors, whoever may be watching as we lead into grand final day? What message would you like to get across as we lead into the biggest game of the year and the biggest game for this club so far?
Look, very similar to the sponsors. Just thank you for the roles that you've played in, and that doesn't have to be a role that you play every time. It can be a role that you play once throughout the year from it could just be a dad who retrieves the balls from down the back of the oval, or it could be, a committee member who works tirelessly every day doing something in the footy club. Thank you is the first one. The second one's obviously if you're around the area on Saturday, come down and watch a game of footy. And we've ticked a lot of boxes as a footy club over the last 5 years, and from a junior and a senior space, and we're ticking them again into this weekend, and a lot of firsts. So come down, be a part of it, and also just enjoy it because, you've helped create this. This isn't just created by, myself or Stubber or the people before us or the people after us. This is created by every single person that's made a small or large impact on the club. And, this is a reward to be able to enjoy it and just absorb it and be a part of it. And yeah, definitely do. But look, thanks is the key word.
Thanks, Michael. And Chris, before we start wrapping things up, what legacy do you hope that this team leaves from the 2025 season, no matter the results on grand final day?
We're getting deep now.
Hmm.
Ooh. Well, I mean, I think we've had some comments from a number of other clubs or other people who've been impressed by just the way we go about things. Not just being successful, but about conducting ourselves appropriately on and off the field, and I think that's really important for me. And the other thing is, I think we want to. I mean, the big Wollongong clubs, the Bulldogs and Fig Tree and Lions, they've set a good tone. And as Michael said before, I think there's a lot to take from them, and we admire from where they're at. I mean, you look at Fig Tree's got a team in every grade, on Saturday, which is awesome. Hats off to them. But we want to make sure that we're mixing up a little bit, and little blokes from the little red-headed ugly kid from the south coast can mix it with the best and get in there and have a crack. And anyone can, you have a good work hard enough and get the right things, you can actually get the results. So
Awesome. I do have one final question before we just do the final wrap up and conclusion. This one's for Chris as well. Um, there are about 30, I don't know the exact number, you know it, but there's around 30 blokes available for the grand final, and unfortunately, we can only squeeze 23 in. Um, what's your message to the playing group as a whole? And what's your message to those who may not make selection this week?
well, I mean, hopefully it's Ubuntu So for those that have been around all year, know Ubuntu means I am because we are. And I think never is that more applicable than, we've only got 23 on the field, but those 23 are representing every other player and every other people from the club. And even if there are going to be people that are going to miss out, and listen, the ones who weren't able to make the side in the first final we played, managed to handle that, to me, as I would have hoped they did. They were generally disappointed, but they understood that this is for the better, and they said, what can I do to help? How can I be involved? And numbers of training, and I said to everyone, make it hard, make this the hardest job that I've got to do, because that's what we've got to be. If we're going to be successful, that's what we're going to be. But then if you're not picked, that's not because it just happens to be I've got to pick the guys that I think are going to do the job against them, and we've watched them a fair bit. But everyone's part of that unit, and everyone shares in that success.
Yeah, great message. I'm just going to do a whip around to everyone to wrap up. We've obviously got a player in myself at the club. We've got the head coach and the president. So I'll start, and then I'll just give you an opportunity to sum up in a few words before we conclude. But from a player perspective, my message is to the playing group that this week is an exciting week. It's something that we play our whole football career to make happen, to make a grand final and to win a flag for our community, for our players, for our support staff, for everyone. I want the players to know that this week is different to other weeks, but at the same time, it's the same process. We train twice a week. We focus on our individual roles, and when we get out in the field, we play with the same skills, enthusiasm, and processes that we've been trained to do all year. We don't go away from that, because what we've done this year is be successful through following the processes. So I just want to say I wish everyone that's selected in the team this week the best of luck. Go out there, do your best job, and no matter what the result is, we're one team, we're one family, and we will win and lose together no matter what. But let's go out there and bring this cup home for our community who deserve it and who we've been working hard behind the scenes throughout the regular season to do. So let's go get it this weekend. Chris, any final words?
I'll keep mine really simple because people will hear my voice a fair bit this week. Bombers alive in 25. I've been trying to push that mantra and make it happen. So now we've got the opportunity to put it in stone.
I'm pretty sure that hashtag is probably one of the most popular going around on socials at the moment. So I think you've done a good thing by getting that going.
There you go.
Michael, President?
Yeah, look, just for me, I mean, the whole club, again, thanks for making this such an enjoyable place to be and to come to and to be involved in. And it's an absolute honor to do what I do. There's so much love that comes towards us, but also from us because of the community that we are. And to the players, just enjoy it. This is just a really fun opportunity. This is something that it doesn't come along every day. And it is quite a moment. And look, just super proud to be in the position where we are, and go out there and have some fun and enjoy the moment, and just make sure for those players that are out on the field that you do stop for a second and just look around, enjoy the fact that you are out there in playing the game that you love, in front of people that you love, for all the reasons that you love. It's really special day, and yeah, thanks for having us all as part of the journey.
Awesome. Now just concluding, the Basin Bombers story is one of courage, growth, and community pride. To reach a grand final in such a short space of time is a testament to the leadership of both yourself, Michael, and Chris, the dedication of the playing group, and the tireless work of volunteers and supporters. As the Bombers prepare to run out this weekend, they carry not only the hopes of their teammates, but the pride of the entire Shoalhaven region. Whatever the result, this season has already left its mark on the history of this club, and the best is still to come. To Michael, Chris, the players, and everyone behind the scenes, congratulations, good luck, and may the Bombers fly high on grand final day. Thanks for being a part of this interview, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for
Thanks,
having us.